Hello, welcome to Shepherd Bear Coaching. Today I'm interviewing Rebecca Gilbert. Rebecca and I met at a networking event about a month ago, a lovely outdoor walk on Hengistbury Head, and we got to learn about each other's businesses, and we're both actually trained as life coaches through the same coaching school. That's the Coaches Training Institute. Not only that, Rebecca is a trained mediator, and she's also a FCIPD, so that means she's a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Personnel and Development, so working in HR. And on our walk, I wanted to know a bit more about Rebecca, so I invited her on the channel to be interviewed so we can delve into what her purpose in life is. Thanks for watching, and please do click and subscribe so we can reach more people and have more purposeful conversations.
Good morning.
Good morning, Rebecca. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Very well, thank you. Very well. I take it you've got the same dismal weather that I've got down here.
Yes, it's pretty cool.
So it's a good time to be inside and be interviewed.
Yes, certainly
about your
is.
purpose. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah. So we're going to dive right in. I've already
okay.
introduced you, but I'm going to ask you a question because I need to add some layers of information about you for our audience. So what do you think would be 3 useful pieces of information that you can tell us that kind of help people understand who you are and what you do?
Okay, so I would say, my career has been in HR. So I've worked in human resources for over 20 years. And most recently, up until the end of last year, the role that I did was an executive director of people and culture for a company called Cornwall Ferries. And then earlier this year, I started my own business, which has been a dream of mine for some years now, offering kind of strategic HR consultancy to businesses. And I also trained earlier this year to become an accredited mediator. And also about 6 years ago, trained as a certified coach.
Yeah, so we both trained at the same school. We both trained with the Coaches Training Institute. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's right.
How did you find that experience? Because I love to meet coaches who train in that school because I know something about the experience they would have had. What was it like for you?
I found it quite challenging. But it's interesting because whenever I look for training, I always look for something different to what I've done before. So I could have gone and kind of done my coaching training with a management institute or something like that. But I'd already done all of my CIPD studies and become a chartered member of the CIPD. And I wanted something that would offer me something different and that would be challenging and a learning curve. And as I'm sure you'll know, some of the coaching training is quite flamboyant. I'll use that word. And I think for me personally, I think that was quite a challenging experience because it's very different to being in a business environment. So yeah, it was interesting and a great experience, but yeah, very, very challenging one at times.
I'm glad you found it challenging. I did too. I think the experience is partly down to who you have as the front of room leaders as well.
Yeah.
They have their own flavour of delivery. But I'm a big fan of if you want something different, then expose yourself to something different or do something different. Yeah. So I've got this image now of you. There's many strings to your bow. So you sort out the coaching, and because that came from a different place, like than the kind of corporate HR setting. You also trained to be a mediator. And how did the mediation fit in with what you were doing in HR?
I think the mediation, especially more recently, it wasn't something that I had planned. I haven't planned that, to be honest. It kind of came to me earlier this year as something that just felt like a very natural fit. And I think throughout my time in HR, I had kind of ended up in positions where I was asked to come in and sit down with people and try and resolve an issue or, get to an outcome. And I think just naturally that felt like kind of a fit, I suppose, to my, I don't know, skills or experience. So yeah, it's interesting because I couldn't tell you when I first thought, oh, that's interesting. I just kind of found myself looking into it thinking, it would actually be a really good thing for me to add in terms of when I was thinking about my business and how I wanted that to look and what kind of things I wanted to offer, really.
Okay, so in terms of what you're offering, so we're both service providers, and we're adding value to people's lives in different ways, and similar ways as well. What do you think the impact is that you have as someone that turns up with all your 20 years of HR experience, plus being trained as a media, plus being trained as a coach? What does that bring to the table?
Well, I would hope that it brings to the table a bit of kind of, I suppose, a bit of depth and variety and perspective, perhaps. Yeah, those are the words that kind of instantly come to me.
I think depth is important because when you're looking for a service, you can find as many as you want, but then if you're just clicking through a website and you find more depth than just the landing page, that's of interest.
Yeah.
But as you're I suppose I would say a person-centered person, and if you're dealing with HR and with mediation and of course with the coaching, then finding a depth in the person is really important. So you've got depth, you've got variety, perspective. That's something that we both trained around. If you didn't remember, the balance work and coaching.
Oh yes, yeah, it was one of my favorites.
Same. Love it.
Really loved it. Yeah.
How can we sum that up how can we explain that to our audience? The balance part of our training.
How do we explain it? I think perspective is a really big word, isn't it? Because I think that's really important. I mean, as we know, you kind of go through exercises with people where you kind of get them to kind of take a step back and look at things in different ways, and come to a solution perhaps from a different place. So when you first kind of approach a solution, you can often be in a certain kind of place or a certain mindset, can't you? And then I think it's that new perspective of, okay, tell me about something completely different. And now let's go back to the issue and how does it look now? So it's that it is very much that new perspective, isn't it? And then you kind of find that you see things in a different way. Yeah,
taking slightly detaching the personal side of things, like your own, actually discovering that you have a perspective, and with that comes behavior and thoughts, and slightly detaching yourself from that. So that sounds an interesting overlay with mediation. If you're mediating between two parties who think differently.
Yeah.
What's that like when you're I suppose being a connector, if you're the person in the middle, you're the conduit through which they're communicating. Does that sound familiar to you?
Yeah, I think so. And I had a thought then and it's gone now, sorry. The thing I was going to say is I found that when I did my mediation training in particular, and obviously then when you're mediating afterwards, a lot of the things I learned in my coaching training are very relevant to mediation. And I think I really recognized that when I was doing the training, and through the different scenarios that you face as a mediator, I think there's definitely a real kind of draw on those coaching skills. Definitely.
What do you think are some of the common challenges that people face when they decide to employ you as a mediator, or when they decide to employ you as a mediator? What are the challenges they're facing?
I think often, whether it's a workplace scenario or whether it's a commercial scenario or even civil scenario, there's always a conflict or a dispute or a disagreement. So there's kind of a real feeling of a kind of knocking knocking together of a clash of some sort, if that makes sense. And obviously the purpose of the mediation is for someone completely separate, independent, to come in and try and help those people involved to resolve whatever the situation is that's going on.
So that independence, or being independent of their world, if you like,
and kind of detached. So I suppose one of the things as well that I've always found has come quite naturally to me is being neutral and being able to listen to people and not form an opinion, or kind of not be influenced by that, I think. And to, obviously in all of these things, to be respectful and kind of keep things confidential. Obviously confidentiality is a huge thing in all of the areas of work that I do. And those kind of things have always just come quite naturally to me, I think.
That's really important, I think, if you have that ability, existing inside of you. It's definitely something that we sharpen over time. But that then aligns a bit with purpose. Today's conversation is about purpose, and I've just made a few notes. So you're the neutral listener, you're the confidential neutral listener, and so part of today's discussion is trying to come up with a life purpose statement for you, as far as I'm concerned. So from my perspective, and we're trying to find a metaphor to kind of sum you up when you are at the peak of your abilities, and then we can talk about the impact that you're having. So there's something here to do with the metaphor about being that kind of confidential, neutral listener. So you're doing that in your work life. How does that come to be present in other areas of your life?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
Hopefully not too personal.
No, I think I've always been someone who I would hope people would say that I've always been someone who's very supportive. I if someone's going through a tough time, or if someone isn't going through a tough time, something great is happening in their life, then I'll always want to make sure I'm there for people and I'm supporting them through whatever that might be. I'm a quality over quantity person, so I don't have tons of friends. I like to have, a few really good close friendships. Don't know why that is, but it's just kind of the way I've always been, I suppose.
So I don't think there's any right way or wrong way of having friends,
No, of course.
So you're supportive. You mentioned earlier about holding that confidential nature of conversations. I think is really important. So you're supportive. You're allowing anyone to, by listening, you're allowing anyone to feel how they're feeling.
Yeah.
And I think holding that kind of neutral status is a valuable part of that. I think if someone knows they can talk to you and not have their thoughts be categorized, just we're gonna have them come out now, and that's fine. Because I'm a big fan of letting our thoughts go somewhere, whether it's writing in a journal, talking, whatever it might be. Because if they don't go somewhere, what do they become? And they can become damaging sometimes if they're quite powerful thoughts. Whether they're good or bad, if you win the lottery and you can't tell anyone, but also if you're having a worrisome thought, then that might also become something that's not helpful. So you're allowing people to just be with their feelings, to also process them, because feelings change, and so you're forming an important part of that process, being that maybe that first person people talk to, and here comes everything, and then you're listening to that and helping them get through a process of thinking.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's interesting because again, that's something that I think I've just naturally in my work and in my personal life, I think that's something I naturally find myself doing. And I think I get real satisfaction from that. I think, you know, the fact that it's not easy for people to talk to someone, and for somebody to feel comfortable that they can come and talk to you, I think, you know, for me, that is that's really important.
Okay, so I used to be a teacher, and you used to be a primary school student. Yes.
Sorry, I'm just wondering where you're going with this.
Right. Okay. So I wonder what kind of people, what kind of friends you would have been in the class, because you know when you see a class of pupils, you can see the class clown and the introvert and all these different characters, and I wonder, is there a little snippet you can give us that can help us form a broader picture of who you are?
I would say certainly I probably would have been definitely more of the introvert than certainly not a class clown. Don't really like to be the center of attention. Yeah.
Do you allow others to be the center of attention by not being the center of attention?
Yes.
That seems like a skill that fits well with your job.
Yeah. I'm quite happy with that.
Because sometimes, you know, we can see things that we're not as something to aspire to, but actually who we are at our core is a skill. You know, comparison is the thief of joy and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But being that introvert and knowing maybe that you're not going to steal the limelight is one of the reasons why people come to you.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, because I think a few people have said to me over the years that, and I think you hear it a lot, don't you, that listening is actually a skill. And I think people have said to me over the years that it's nice to be able to talk and not be interrupted and not have someone giving you their opinion. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because yeah, to me, that's just, you need to give someone the space to talk and just listen. And I think often people can feel they need to fill the silence, or, you know, say something to but yeah, it's I think it's really important to give people the room to be able to talk.
Yeah, giving people the room. So I'm now thinking of you as a mediator. If you're in a room and you're present there with all of your skills, but let's say in that mediation process,
yeah,
because of your presence and you're that impartial person, you're holding a confidential conversation, you're also giving those people the room to talk. It sounds like you're walking into a certain environment where you're holding this is a very coachy term, holding the space. Yeah. But not taking up the space, and it's somewhere they know that some important conversations can happen because you're there in a certain manner, with a certain presence.
Yeah.
Okay. People the room. So I'm writing notes as I do, and
yeah, of course, yeah.
Fish out of these notes my final conclusion at the end.
Because it's one of the things that you and I talked about, wasn't it? Because we met obviously on the walk in nature, didn't we? One of the things that we talked about was, because I like variety and I like to, you know, do different things, but then how do you kind of draw all that together? What's the common theme? And that was the thing that kind of got us talking, wasn't it?
And it's knowing, I think, partly what I hope I do here is I help people understand what they've got so they can draw on it. Like I say, we're like multi-tools, like a Swiss Army knife or whatever. 11 other brands are available, but we don't necessarily. We constantly bring out the knife, and do things with that, but we don't necessarily look at the other things in there. So when we know they're there, then we can, or we know how powerful we can be with them, then they're more available to us, I think.
Yeah.
So what do you find most challenging about your job?
What do I find most challenging? So right now, obviously, as a new business owner, I think the thing I probably find most challenging at the moment is it's all very new to me, of course. And I started my business earlier this year. It's only really been kind of six months or so. So I suppose in a way that's really exciting, but then the most challenging thing that comes with that, of course, is the unknown and not knowing, where opportunities are going to come from, or, which things you're doing that will actually kind of work or pay off, in terms of kind of marketing and reaching out and promoting yourself and all these sorts of things. So I suppose for me right now, that's the biggest challenge as a new business owner. But on the flip side, it's also it's interesting and it's exciting because it's a challenge and it's something new and it's a learning process. And also for me, it's challenging professionally, but personally as well, because of course, being a new business owner is very different to, I've worked in a job since I was kind of 15, 16 years old. So for me, this is very different. So yeah, it's a personal development thing as well as a professional development.
Right. Okay, so you're leaving a certain structural framework, and there are options about how you do your work. This is I'm interpreting from what you're saying. So the unknown is partly to do with what you can make it, or the shape that it becomes, according to you. You have to do it the way the companies that you've worked for before have done it.
No.
Okay, but also though, so in terms of marketing, what will pay off? Maybe today's conversation can help. I think it will actually. It will help you talk about you, because I'm kind of helping. I'm going to help you see the back of your head, and give you my perspective of what people see or are aware of when you walk in a room, when you mediate, when you give HR advice, and combine all those things with coaching as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's, sorry to interrupt you, but I think that's the thing as well in terms of the other big challenge is that's the thing that I'm really trying to nail down at the moment, is what is different about what I offer. Because of course there are lots of other great HR consultants around. So it's really kind of packaging up and being able to communicate quite quickly, what it is that I do and why that's different. And it's what you're saying, I think, is really important, because when it's you, I think it can be quite difficult to define or explain, or perhaps, as you say, see how that looks to others, if that makes any sense at all.
It does. I'm just thinking, I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of a potential client, or what they're looking for.
Yeah.
And you're looking for something different to say, but something that's true of you is very important.
Yeah, that's most important, isn't it?
Yeah. So, I mean, you could. So I do get the impression you could be powerfully neutral, or a powerful listener.
Yeah.
If someone's looking for mediation, I'm hoping that at some level they want neutrality. and
Yeah.
not, I hope this mediator, sits on my side of the fence.
But equally, I think they want someone who is going to listen to them. So yes, you're neutral when you're coming into the situation neutral, but you also want someone who is going to sit in the room with you and listen to you and take on board what you're saying and then use that in a constructive way.
Okay, so giving the chance for someone to talk in a manner in which they would want to talk. So
Yes.
creating that environment.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Enabling the important information to come forward, then to be listened to in that, just letting the conversation come out, letting it land, and not sort of divide it up into opinions.
Yeah.
And then what happens in that process? Just to help me figure this out. So
obviously don't want to get too specific about it because it's different. So for example, commercial mediation is a different process to workplace mediation, for example. But in general, initially you're going to listen to the individual situations, and then what you're going to do is try and bring that together somehow to kind of work with the different parties to help kind of bring them towards a satisfactory outcome. Because in that, in a mediation scenario, it's especially probably in commercial mediation, it's unlikely everyone's going to go away absolutely delighted, but they hopefully will go away satisfied. And that's kind of an expectation that you would set, that you have to be willing to negotiate effectively, and you might not get everything that you want, but hopefully it's a better alternative to going through a legal process further, going to court, etc., etc.
Yeah. So allow in maybe a sticky situation, but allowing the goodness to be found. In a bath of cold water, if you pour a cup of hot water in there, doesn't really raise the bath temperature, but the cup of hot water is in there. That energy does exist in that body of water. And so there is goodness in a relationship between two people somewhere, and you're helping them find that. You're helping them find, it might not be consensus, but like you say, satisfaction of an outcome. That's right.
Yeah, you're picking you're picking up on the areas where there is a similar kind of need or want. So they both might want everything to just be over as quickly as possible, or they both might want, you're trying to find those similarities and using those to, as a tool to try and bring the views together.
So something around finding similarities or finding solutions where they think there aren't any. You can see something they can't, like you can almost see like a different wavelength of light. They can't see the reds. That's where the solutions lie. You can see the reds. Okay.
Yeah, because of course, by that point, and it's perfectly natural. You're so ingrained embroiled in a situation, and when you're so close to something, we've all been there. It's very difficult to see clearly necessarily, because there's a lot of emotion attached as well, and there can be all sorts of layers that you kind of need to peel away and try and really get to the bottom of what's the real issue here that needs to be resolved.
Okay, yeah, layers, because they're kind of wearing those layers, aren't they? We all are.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Gosh, it sounds like a very valuable process. It's littered with feelings and emotions.
Yeah. And I think more so sometimes than is apparent, or more so perhaps even than people would like, to the people who are involved. I think sometimes there's probably more emotion there than than they realize or appreciate themselves.
I've now got an image of, you know, when planes fly above, like today it's a very grey day, it's raining, it's horrible. And if anyone were to fly abroad on their holiday from the UK today, at some point they would get above the clouds and see blistering sunshine.
Mm-hmm.
I get the impression that's kind of what you're doing. Or that's where you are, you know, above their grey cloud, maybe. You know, they're down there experiencing everything, all the emotions and the feelings, and they maybe can't find the clarity or the solutions that you're up there and you can see that. So maybe you're taking a little bit of a flight and they can just start to see a few things because they're sort of flying with you.
Yeah, I think instantly when you said that, actually, I wouldn't think of myself as being above above kind of the clouds. I would see myself as going to where they are first and understanding, you know, what it's like, to use your example, kind of underneath those clouds. What's it like? What's their experience? And then, yes, hopefully you can both kind of move towards kind of raising yourself above the clouds. But yeah, for me, I think instantly I would want that person to feel as though I was going into their experience with them first, not instantly trying to kind of lift them out of it, because I think that takes a little bit of time. I think you need a bit of patience for that, don't you?
Yeah. I like that. I like going. So you're willing to go and visit them where they are, meet them where they are. Both people. Almost like a tennis umpire getting down out of the chair and walking over to the side of the court, going, I can see how that looks from here.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And now I'm going to go over there because they're another tennis player doing their thing. I'll go and have a look at what it looks like from over there. Because those tennis players both have the idea of what the truth is. It's in or it's out, or, you know, whatever they're contesting. And then you get to be somewhere else. You're present, but you're holding a certain air about yourself, and they're trusting you to umpire that game, that match.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you play tennis?
No, not really. Would like to, actually. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh.
Yeah. Used to a bit kind of years ago. You do these things kind of in school and stuff, don't you? But yeah.
Yeah.
I quite like watching tennis, and I've definitely thought I'd like to give it a go.
I think tennis umpires have a really hard life at the moment. It seems to be far more doubt from the players in them. I feel really sorry for them. When some players, you know, have a complete go at an umpire, they've made a decision the best they can at the time, and the players think they somehow should be perfect. They should make no wrong decision. What the players forget is that they don't hit every ball in. They hit balls into the net. They hit balls out. So they're not granting the umpire the same latitudes that they wish to have for themselves. I digress. So your husband likes football?
Yes. So we've had all the fun over the last few years of I'll probably get told off calling it fun, actually, of VAR being introduced and kind of adding it. So kind of similar to what you're saying about the umpires in tennis, I expect. Lots of decisions being disagreed with.
Because the Hawkeye in tennis and the what do they call it in football? The virtual
the VAR.
VAR, yeah. See, they come back with the truth, don't they? Those things they say this is out or this was in, but what they don't do is go and deal with the player's feelings or emotions.
Yeah. Well, I think the trouble, I mean, we could end up getting into this too much, couldn't we? But I think the trouble with VAR is that it's kind of another person making a decision, unless it's kind of goal line technology and it's, you know, it's clear. I think the frustration is that it's another layer of a person making a decision, which then, of course, isn't agreed with. So it's, probably sounds like it's a little bit different, but causes a lot of frustration, doesn't
it? I think it's quite different because of the time frame, because that clock is ticking, obviously, during a game of tennis or a game of football, and so a decision needs to be made. I'm guessing that there's a different relationship you have with time and with your clients, maybe, rather than, oh, we've got a clock ticking here. Maybe granting them time when you're listening to them, letting them be heard and understanding them.
Yeah, I would say so. I would say I certainly don't rush people. I don't feel like I'm in a rush for someone to reach a conclusion, or yeah, I think I definitely have the patience because I think it's really important when you come to a solution to have the time to get to that solution, because I think that's what cements it, isn't it? If you're just rushed into a decision or rushed to a place, you then go away afterwards thinking, oh, have I made the right decision? Because you haven't had time to explore it or, be comfortable with it. And then I think that kind of makes it, defeats the object, really, doesn't it? Whereas if you have that time and space to come to that decision happily, comfortably, then I do think that makes a difference to how people feel about the decision afterwards.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I think we probably all made decisions, or I mean, even purchase something in the moment where we come back and think, oh, was that the right decision? Was that the right purchase? Okay, so you're kind of like a patient container. So you're moving, you're like a train in that respect. So you're not speeding along, rushing them to make a decision, but they're kind of on board. They know they're going somewhere with you, and whilst on board, it's almost like you can bring the speed down a little bit, the speed of emotions and speed of feelings. On that carriage, they can have the important conversations, and then depart the next station feeling comfortable that they've been listened to, understood, and that there's a decision, an important decision that they've come to, which is not one that's sort of fashioned out of emotions, but one that's fashioned out of solutions. Right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think the other thing is that different people move at different pace, don't they? And different situations. So again, kind of an interesting piece of awareness that I picked up when I did my mediation training, especially when I did my training in civil and commercial mediation, is that, of course, in different scenarios, different situations, there are reasons why people want and need to move at pace. And I think that's fine. What you don't want to do is stand in the way of that, be in the way of that, or for you to be trying to slow things down when it isn't appropriate, and then it just becomes frustrating and it's not helpful. So I think it's being tuned in, isn't it, to the circumstances that you're in, the people that you're working with or in front of, or whatever it might be, and knowing when you need to switch gear or approach it differently, or try a different speed or angle or whatever. I think that's important as well, because not every scenario is going to be a scenario where you need to slow things down. Sometimes that's not helpful.
No. So going back to my the train carriage, from what you're saying, there's room for people to run around in there, and there's room for people to sit as well and move at different speeds, and not feel like no we must do it this way. They can still they can still honor their feelings in that moment, and you're validating them and saying, right, they are true for you right now. But because they're with you in that carriage, they can communicate. So I used the word conduit before. You're a place where people come together and can talk, through you or with you there. despite moving at different speeds, you might have someone who's doing that and someone who's really calm.
Yeah.
But you're allowing them to find the place where they can talk, or around the topic that they can talk.
Yeah.
Okay, so almost like a universal language. This is all me trying to summarize how you're coming across to me. Universal language. Okay.
And if it's helpful, one of the things in my HR work that's important to me, especially now going forward in my business, I think the thing that's important to me is working with businesses to understand where it is they're trying to go from a business point of view, from a commercial point of view, and then helping them to achieve that through the HR or the people kind of strategy or plan or whatever they might need. I think there's something very similar about that that I can't quite put my finger on, but one of my earliest HR memories was working with the founder of a business that I worked for quite a few years ago, and they'd started and ran this company themselves, and they'd obviously built this business up, and they had this one particular people issue that we were really struggling to resolve. It was really complex, and legally it was very difficult to try and overcome it. And I just remember sitting with them and just feeling a real kind of need to help get to that solution. And it was quite early on in my career, but I've always remembered that, and there was something quite important about that for me.
Okay, I think those things, those experiences are important to remember. If they are important to you, then they're part of the reason why you're doing what you're doing or who you are today. So yeah, so do revisit that. Obviously you do. So again, you want to know about where they're trying to get to. You're kind of holding course and still allowing people to kind of move off that line a bit, or as you said, being that carriage, to say what they want to say, to feel that I think when we're trying to aim for consensus, that's a difficult delivery. But when people know they've been listened to, know that they've actually been understood and considered, and all the options have been laid on the table, then you're coming in and helping them remember where they're trying to get to and how this fits in with that. Yes. Yeah. Right. Okay.
I think it's important to let people, whilst you want people to be moving in the same direction, you want to allow people to have their own experience.
Yes.
And to do things in their own way and to own it, rather than autonomy has always been important to me in my work, and I think I've always tried to remember that when working with other people, and I think you just naturally just allow people the space to do what they do really well and trust that they will, and just make sure that it's clear where it needs to end up, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think it's a characteristic of some of the businesses that thrive, is that they don't have a restrictive culture or framework. They have a framework which allows people to do things their way to a certain degree. So they're not knocking to the walls of that container. But that container is still leading them to the goal of the company.
Yeah.
And in your mediation, there's a goal, and so you've got a similar framework. You're not trying to say, "Oh, that's not right," or "You can't do this, can't do that." You're allowing those things to happen, and then out of that, because if people don't talk about how they feel and aren't honest, you can't find the kind of golden thread that you can use to help them move forward together.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, right. There's a lot here. So we're going to
covered a lot of ground, haven't we?
Yeah. And another coaching term we're both aware of, we'll have to dance in the moment.
Oh,
And
yes. Wow.
yeah.
That takes me back.
So for anyone who's watching, dance in the moment is not worrying about what was said 2 hours ago or 30 minutes ago. It's like what's happening right now. So I've written down loads of things in my notes. And I might be worried about what was on the first sheet of paper, but actually what I said last about this golden thread. You can find the golden thread in the ball of wool of emotions and feelings. There's knotted balls of wool. You think, how on earth can you find the start of the thread that leads you somewhere that's really important for the company or the pair of people, whoever it might be, to where they want to go? I think you can do that. So they come to you and say, "We've got this mess, Rebecca. We've got this." And you can provide a container with which, by allowing them to talk, you're listening, you're validating, what they're feeling. You recognize, you understand how they're feeling. There's empathy involved, and because that's happening, whilst it's happening between them, you get to find a golden thread which you can then say, sort of make them aware of, and help them follow that to where they want to go. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
So those pieces of paper can go away. Golden thread.
Like that.
Okay, right. Okay. So
this must be quite challenging for you.
Oh yeah, every time.
I get that it's it's what you do, and but yeah, it's I suppose you kind of have to just let the conversation happen, don't you? And then it just trust that it will come to you at some point.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. I mean, at 24 minutes gone, so I've been watching, I thought, I don't know where it's going to go. It's happened every time, but every time I've come up with it at the end.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Okay, so the golden thread is like the impacts you're having. Okay, so that's the second half of the purpose. So, and by the way, these purpose statements don't have to mean anything to anyone. It's just helping you translate, see what I can see, and this may help you talk to your audience or prospective clients. So you help find the golden thread in the messy woolen ball of emotions. Help find I've got to write it down, otherwise I'll forget it. Help find the golden thread in the messy woolen ball of emotions. Okay. And that impact, it contains you listening to them, allowing them to feel what they're feeling, letting them know they feel understood, or having them feel understood. They can move at their own speed. This is all in that ball, that messy ball or woolen ball. They have perspectives, they have opinions, they have their truth. But amidst all of that, to find that golden thread, we're now going to look at a metaphor for who you're being to do that. So you're very grounded. I'm going to have to look at the sheets now. What did I say before? You're introverted. You're the quiet listener. You're supportive. Powerfully neutral. Powerfully grounded. Okay, let's go with this one. You're the powerfully grounded listener who helps find the golden thread in the messy woolen ball of emotions. What do you think?
Yeah, I like that. I think the thing that's jumping out at me is, and I suppose I'm kind of putting my HR director hat on,
Please
that
do.
it's not all about emotion. and that may or may not be kind of appropriate in this kind of conversation or this circumstance, but I think that's the thing that jumps out at me when I listen to that, because there's more in that kind of mess, isn't there? Than I think there's a real practical side to me. I think I'm quite practical, kind of goals driven, kind of getting from A to B. So I think that's the thing that jumps out at me.
How does it feel if I were to describe you as the powerfully grounded listener who helps find the golden thread in the messy woolen ball of emotions?
How does it feel to me?
Yeah.
I think instantly I just thought it's not just about the emotions. There's other stuff as well.
Okay. So
yeah.
should we then replace that then? So the messy woolen ball of, I don't know, it could be something else, or just the messy woolen ball. See, this is the great thing about these life purpose statements, is they don't have to, convey everything to anyone, as long as you know what it means. And so for you and for our audience, purpose is a great filter on life. Am I being the powerfully grounded listener today? Am I helping people find the golden thread in the messy woolen ball? And you know what that image includes. So it doesn't have to, we could write out everything, and I listen and I help people talk.
Yeah. Otherwise you get caught up on the words rather than the meaning. Is that what you mean?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's just the word you use there about not getting caught or getting caught. So you help people find the golden thread and not get caught in the messy woolen ball. So I'm now modifying it as I go along. So you're the powerfully grounded listener who finds the golden thread and helps people not get caught in the messy woolen ball. Because they couldn't they? They could stay there for ages.
Yeah. I really like the golden thread, because I think that makes a lot of sense to me. I think it is a case of, here's a brain dump of everything. Now tell me what you think. And I think I do then like to say, okay, well, I noticed you said this, and so I think that's a really good. I really like that.
How about then we don't necessarily have to mention the rest of it. It's if you're the powerfully grounded listener who finds the golden thread. I don't know if we need something else after that or not.
Yeah, maybe you don't.
Maybe, yeah. So then I invite you to try it on, and it's there to be accepted, rejected, or modified. So my purpose statement is, I am the Sherpa bear and I help people catch their fish. And that's gone through loads of iterations, and they were really long and descriptive. And
love the video on your website, by the way.
Oh, thank you very much.
You've got a video on your website, haven't you, about that?
Yeah. And I explain my purpose statements. So try it on. I think talk about it with people that you feel happy talking about it with. You can even talk about it with current clients and say, hey, I got interviewed and I got described as this. What do you think? Am I doing this, for you? And they might offer something, go, oh, I think of it more like this. And then you might go, oh, that's it. That's what it is. Yeah. So it's just a way of continuing the conversation that raises your awareness of who you're being and what you're doing.
Yeah.
That's why, that's what I love doing in these interviews.
Yeah. Well, you do it very well.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Right. The powerful, grounded listener. Okay, I challenge you to come up with something that is powerfully grounded and a listener. Maybe it could be like an animal, or you can think of something or someone you think, oh, that makes me think of this. And that could be another way to modify your life purpose statement.
Okay.
Thank you so much for
thank you.
joining me on Shepherd Bear Coaching. Now, where can people find you? It's important for me to make sure people can connect with you. So what are the best avenues through which people can connect with you? And we'll put this in the description below as well.
Okay. So people can connect with me through my website. So my website is www.headlandhr.co.uk. And on there, you'll find my email address, and my mobile phone number is on there as well. And people can also connect with me through LinkedIn.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time and your energy. It's great to hear more about you, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Walk in Nature.
Yeah, no, it's been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.